the one thing that I will never do is abandon this child because that just goes against all the things that I believe in. And so I needed to make the decision to do it and to do it the best way I can. Right. And so the version of me when I made a decision is far from the best way I can. Right? And so I had to make myself better. No other way anymore. Right. Because without my son, just alone, right? I'm free to think whatever I want. I'm free to become less than what I could be. But now I have a very compelling reason to become the best version of myself. And that's also a reason why I had the realization that I cannot do this alone, because without the existence of my son, I would not have realized that. I would not have made that decision.
Emerge Stories is a place where, as the name implies, you are going to hear stories. Stories from people all over the Philippines who have come from many different types of backgrounds, and especially people who have gone through struggles, people who have gone through the challenging parts of life. And I hope that these stories will relate for you in some way, that some of these stories will really land for you because these people have gone through probably just about the same thing you might be going through right now. Have you ever really contemplated the meaning of life and whether there is one? Have you ever wished for a little bit more purpose in life? Well, in today's Emerge Stories interview with Keefe Fale, who originally was born in Mindanao, now lives in Cebu, I think you're going to hear an amazing example of someone who has done a lot of deep contemplation about the purpose and the meaning behind life. And once he had his son, he really kind of took incredibly strong ownership of his own personal development and his own pursuit of his potential. And I just met Keefe earlier this year, but I really have become a huge fan. He's an amazing, amazing person. And I just can't wait to see who he will become in the next few years because of the work that he's doing on himself. And he's really quickly become one of the pillars of the EmergePH community that I would invite you to as well. So thanks for being here, listening to this. I hope it's inspiring to you. If it is, please share it with somebody you know who you think would love to hear it. And definitely please take a moment to check out the community we're building that is designed to connect people across the Philippines or really anywhere in the world, but specifically designed for Filipinos or people who care about this culture to connect with others who are very interested in becoming the best version of themselves and pursuing the most limitless life possible. And so we invite you, if that sounds like something you're interested in, don't be shy. Check out the community. It's a free place where you can find other people, learn, and really discover a supportive place, because life can be a little bit lonely when you're trying to grow yourself and when you're trying to make yourself into a better person. Not everybody around us is focused on that. Sometimes it's pretty easy to get burned out on just life, but people like Keefe, in my opinion, are just inspiring. And I hope you love these stories as much as I do. Let's get into it. Keefe, welcome to Emerge Stories. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for the invite. Happy to be here.
So first thing that I'm going to ask you to tell me is, how did we meet?
How did we meet? Okay. So I was in the process of trying to connect with all sorts of people in LinkedIn. And fortunately, you're one of those I sent the invite to.
And roughly what were you sending in those invites?
Yeah. So I think it was the third variation, but the gist is that I'm looking to meet people whom I can help out without asking for anything in return. And that's my way of trying to know if there really is value I can add to people's lives. I also added that it's a 65-day challenge for me to do that, so I could practice giving without asking for anything in return. At least that's the idea.
So that completely grabbed my attention because it's unusual, first of all. Maybe some people, I'm curious, maybe we talk about this another time, but I'm really curious about the kind of diversity of responses that you typically got or how many people did respond. But for me, it was super attention grabbing because I remember a period in my life when I shifted my focus toward giving without receiving. And I think it's a crazy powerful concept to execute on. So it grabbed my attention. And then I saw your profile and I saw that you had like hashtag personal development or some topics there that really also grabbed my attention. So I immediately responded. And then what was that, 2 months ago, I think, something like that.
Yeah,
And then we've been
around that time.
talking a lot since then. But okay, where did you get the idea to start reaching out to people on LinkedIn and focusing on giving without receiving? Like, this is pretty alien for most people.
I won't say there's just one source of inspiration in me doing that. I feel like it's a pattern that I see from the people I admire online, like the thought leaders and influencers that would deliver messages that I resonate with. Like some people I feel like I would want to be in some sense, not completely, but in some sense. And so I try to create my own version. Of course, part of it is also exploring the possibility of it started from building up on my LinkedIn really started from a lead gen, right? Or something like that. But it felt like
That there
I
would be
would
value
not
for you in the future if you had a lot of good connections on LinkedIn,
yeah,
something like
yeah.
that. But
And
not a
just meet
specific,
friends.
you don't have like a specific, you're not selling anything right now, right? Oh, you are. You just never
So
got to it with me.
yeah, so originally I was looking for ways in order for me to sell something to people, right? I'm with
Insurance.
access, and then it just did not feel genuine. So I tweeted in a way that really feels true to me.
All right. I like that. I learned a ton conversation psychology and building my network through business, like when several different times in business where, yes, I had an agenda to grow my business, but I started learning that if you can actually genuinely prioritize relationships and not be thinking about that agenda, it's the best. Yes, maybe it feels like a longer path, but it's actually the more sustainable path to stop thinking about what's in it for you and go build genuine relationships.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like that is exactly it. I feel like always looking for what's in it for me is holding me back from doing what's of value.
Yeah. Yep. That's what I didn't learn until my early to mid 30s is stop trying to sell something and stop thinking about what's in it for you, what you need, what you're trying to accomplish, and then go focus on delivering value without thinking about what you're going to get in return. And then, yeah, that led me down a path that was a lot of things I learned from there, but that's amazing. So, anyway, just wanted to highlight that we met in a fashion that most people might think is a bit unorthodox. And okay, yes, you did have the goal of growing your network so that you could grow your portfolio of clients, but your introduction on LinkedIn was so genuine. And now I know you and I know you weren't bullshitting me. Like that was really true. So that's amazing. All right. So we've got to know each other in the last couple of months. You've become one of the more engaged people in the EmergePH community, which I super appreciate. And yeah, I've gotten to know that you are really someone who currently in your life is putting a lot of energy into growing yourself and just developing who you are as a person. I'd love to go back to where your story starts. Like, where were you born? Where did you grow up? What was your kind of childhood?
Oh, so I spent my childhood in South Cotabato, Mindanao,
Okay.
the town called Santo Niño.
All right.
Couple years there, and then I really moved from one place to another. In average, I would only stay at one place for 4, 5 years. So from South Cotabato, I spent high school in General Santos City, my college in Davao City, and then after that, Cebu.
All right. And family you grew up in, what was life like?
I'd say I was raised by a family whose main source of income is farming. We had farmland, and I vividly remember how religious my grandmother was, and so I was raised with the values of a farmer and
Okay.
someone religious.
Okay.
And yeah,
All right. I think most Filipinos can get a general idea of that background. So that's a pretty big distance from who I see now. What have been some of the major pivotal moments in your life that have led you to become who you are now, or choose who you want to become? And that's something I think that's one of the biggest difference makers in any of us, is like the moment we either, do we ever decide to take ownership of who we are becoming and who we want to be? Or do we just keep living this life that somebody else gave us and keep living based on other people's opinions of who we should be and how we should live? So you are obviously a pretty rare example of somebody who has taken extreme ownership of who you want to be. How the heck did that happen?
I tried, but the one memory there that I would say really shaped, or at least started to shape who I am now, was at a time during college, right? When I felt like I had so much time in the world and I would spend so many hours in my room just thinking, nothing else. And that gave me time to ask questions that I would not typically ask people, right? Questions and conversations that I'm most comfortable having just with myself. So the meaning of life, and where do I go from there? And I remember started asking myself why something exists, right? Because it felt pretty difficult to answer that straight away. Like, why do I exist? What's the meaning of my life? And so I had this exercise to look at anything that I see and start asking why it exists. And there would be an answer after one after another. And then you could always just ask why. And then at the end of that, I either don't have any answer left anymore, or there's just no meaning. Right? And so some references I remember would be, it felt like science or math does not have the answer to that question. It also felt like religion's answer is just too sure, that it felt
Too certain,
questionable.
not a satisfying explanation.
Right, not a satisfying explanation. And philosophy's answers are are the opposite. It felt too unsure or
Too vague.
uncertain. Yeah, too
Yeah.
vague. And so my conclusion was that there must be nothing. There must be no meaning to all of this. And thinking of that one idea I had. So if there's no meaning to life, then what's the point of living the next day? Or even so, I remember that I think that it's true for most of us, where there's always expectation on how we would become. And it felt like expectations on me. Maybe it's imaginary. What I mean is the expectations of me by others or by my family, just too much. But more than that, my expectations of myself is
Hmm.
too much. There's always the thought that whatever I do, I feel like I would certainly become successful. And when at that point, when I started asking the questions, I asked myself, it felt like maybe not, maybe not, and maybe there's
What do you
no
mean?
point
Maybe
to
not.
that.
What do you mean? Maybe not. Maybe you
Maybe
wouldn't
it's not.
become successful, or
Yeah, yeah. Maybe I would become successful at
okay.
all. Like,
Back then, what did successful mean for you, or what were you imagining for that?
that's a great question. That's almost exactly the same as the meaning of life. So if I don't have any answer to the meaning of my existence, then there must not be one correct answer to what success is, right? So if there's no single meaning to what life is and what success is, and the world is too old to for there to not one answer to exist. So it was also a blur, right? I was like judging myself for something that I can't see clearly. So what made sense to me at the time is to just drop it. I'm not gonna think of this anymore. I'm just gonna think of what's next for me.
Going back to, was there a time where you had this belief that whatever you did, you would be successful, that kind of predated when you started asking these existential questions? In other words,
Sorry.
okay, so there was this period in college where you started just spending a lot of time with reflection, asking a bunch of deep questions that I think most people, when they bump into those existential questions, like how did everything even get here, it's so uncomfortable and complex and overwhelmingly heavy. that people typically just bounce off of it and go watch Netflix or sing karaoke, right? It's just easier to stop thinking about that because it's too heavy. Most people don't go deep on that on their own. I do, but that's pretty rare. But before that, before you started coming to some kind of conclusion at that point that maybe there isn't any clear purpose or point of anything, before that, did you feel, you said you felt like whatever you did you would become successful? Did you have a vision previously that what success would look like? Or were you talking about what did successful?
No, actually
Never.
not.
Okay.
It felt like it's just a baseless confidence.
Okay. Okay. But not even a feeling of I would be wealthy. I just remember I'm trying to relate for myself because I remember in my late teens, very similar for me, like very similar. This feels very similar to my story where I always had this inner belief in myself that I would be very successful because I believed I was smart. And then I believed I could work hard because I'd seen that I can, and I'm willing to work hard and I'm smart. And I thought if I just work hard and I'm smart, I'll be very wealthy. I'll be successful in this world, whatever. And I didn't have a very specific idea of what that looked like, but I just figured it's inevitable. I'll be a millionaire by the time I'm 30, something like that. Does that relate at all? Was it something like that?
Yeah,
Or,
pretty close. I'd say it's so along those lines. It's not really, well, part of it is being wealthy, but looking back, it probably was closer to status of some sort.
okay.
Like I did
You'll be
not,
well known.
yeah, yeah,
Okay. Okay.
for
You'll
whatever
amount to
I do.
something. You'll have some
Yeah,
legacy or
yeah,
everybody will know who Keefe is. All
something
right.
like
All right. All right.
that.
All right. I was just curious about that. So as you started asking these deeper questions and not really finding, you're going deeper, why, which I think is so powerful. And most people don't spend enough time doing that kind of reflection to ask layers of why, but you kept running into no complete answer. And then where did that leave you?
I gave up. I
Right.
gave up.
You said let's not keep doing this exercise. And then what?
Yes. So I dropped it for a moment and I thought to myself, maybe I just need to be exposed more, right, to the world. And no better way to do that than to meet more people. And so that's when I think that's the last chance I gave myself to finish college. And then I did not, and I moved to Cebu. Actually, I did not intend to move specifically to Cebu. What I did was that I went home to General Santa City. I stayed for a few days with my uncle, and then I told him that I'm gonna leave. I don't know where to, but I will. I also informed my mom, and so I did. I went back to college or to Davao City, and then I just packed up and rode a bus.
Okay.
And
What
the
gave you the
farthest,
idea you're just like you didn't intend to go to Cebu at the time or you did?
no, I
No.
did not.
You're just
No,
gonna go somewhere. But why?
yeah,
Why?
I was running away.
Okay. And what was the feeling? What was the feeling that led you to that choice?
It just felt like whatever that existed in my life at that time, nothing's like helping me anymore. Right? So it felt like maybe somewhere else I could gain inspiration. I could gain the information I need
All right.
to to get to the next level. Right.
And
So
how
I
old were
wrote
you at that time?
20, I think
Okay.
20.
Were there any data points that were telling you that from friends, social media, YouTube? I don't know. Anything you think was giving you data points that the world is bigger than where you were experiencing?
Probably. I spent a lot of time watching weird movies, and I found myself enjoying indie movies that are not for everybody.
Give me
Maybe
an
that's
example.
where I'm not sure of the title. It's a movie made by a friend. I just can't quite remember the title. Orange Clockwork.
Oh, Clockwork Orange. Yeah, Stanley Kubrick. Kubrick is
Yes,
definitely not for
super
everyone.
weird. it did not dictate what I was gonna do, but I just love the idea of them being so chaotic
Yes.
and free.
They didn't become your mentors?
Nope.
That's good.
Fortunately not. And
No, but yeah, go ahead.
there's another one, The Art of Getting By. I don't
Sounds
remember the
vaguely
story
familiar.
anymore, but I
Is that a
remember.
Japanese? Is that Art of Getting By?
No,
Sounds
it's
familiar.
it's Western.
Indie film. No, I don't know this movie.
I don't think
I'll
it's
check
an
it out.
indie film though.
Okay, cool.
But anyway.
All right. Yeah, I know that actor. He's cool. I'll check it out. Thank you. All right. So you had some ideas that maybe the world was bigger
Mhm.
than what you were experiencing. You decide to go somewhere. You get on a bus, and then what?
And I had no direction, so I just rode the bus with the longest travel, so I can have a lot of time to think where I'm gonna go next. And then I reached Cagayan de Oro, and
Now you have to take
I
a
felt
ferry.
like I wasn't planning to, but it felt like it's too much of a hassle to look for some place to stay at just for the night. And so I was hearing other passengers talking about where they're gonna go to next. And so I ride the tricycle with the one who was the loudest in the bus. They're going to the pier, and so I was to choose whether I would go to Bohol or to Cebu. And the loudest was going to Cebu. I joined the crowd. Introverts getting swept up by the extroverts. And so, yeah, we talked a lot during that travel to Cebu. And then when we arrived, there's one person there who helped me get the place to stay at.
Did you have some savings to do this with?
Yeah, a little bit because I worked as an email tech support
In
for,
Jinsan,
I think, in Davao City
Davao.
for
Okay.
6 months.
Right. You went
Yeah.
home. Okay. Got it. All right. So you saved up a little bit. You're just like, I got to get out of here. I got to go experience the world. I don't know where I'm going. Take a bus, take a ferry or overnight boat to Cebu, get a place, and then what?
So the only goal I had in mind there is that I still have it written somewhere. The goal is to gather as many perspectives as I can so that I could get an idea which ones I do not like and which ones I would rather be. And so it felt like the BPO industry is the best place to be. People from all walks of life. I know for a fact that it's a great place to be exposed to Western culture, and so I did. Right. If I were to pick out one thing that I learned in the industry that shaped me who I am right now, it's empathy, which is something that I'm still struggling to be great at. Because before I was already having fun with psychological studies, right? But emotions to me at that time were just information and not really feelings. And so part of the realization was that I have not been built to feel. I could just think, right? And so it's difficult to relate to others when I only understand myself. I don't understand them.
Yeah.
And I later learned that understanding others helped me understand myself better. And so I got into that loop. Of course, distractions are everywhere. And then I got back to that when I was with my last employer because there's the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. They're so big on that. And so that's my first step to whatever I'm doing now, learning about habits and digging deeper into
Did
it.
did you so in this previous role, which we both are like I'm friends with the people that you used to work with and great culture there. And so that was when you started reading, or did you read before that?
Really, until now, I don't think I'm a fan of reading.
Not a big reader.
Really,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
like listening more.
okay. So where do you know what have other than 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, what are some other sources of ideas in that are important for you?
So that's when I started exploring the messages that thought leaders deliver, and then more and more of them. I found Dr. Jordan Peterson. And so that was the spark of inspiration for me to start the smallest possible start I could do. Right? He often talks about making your bed.
Yeah. Yeah. Just pick up that one little piece of trash on the way to the sink,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and then go from there.
Yeah.
Right? I so love how he emphasizes on speaking the truth. Right? It's super difficult, especially when lying makes things easy. So there, I don't
Have you come across Sam Harris at all?
Sam Harrison.
Not yet.
I don't
Okay.
think
I'll
so.
introduce you to some stuff later. He wrote a very short book called Lying, which I think you should read if you're interested in that topic. Also, Sam Harris and JP Jordan Peterson have had some super fun debates because they have some slightly different views on some things. But Sam Harris is a brilliant thinker and one of the most articulate people you'll ever hear. Also,
Check that debate out for
pretty
sure.
much like Sam Harris has turned himself into an expert on meditation, kind of from a very secular angle. But he's fascinating. I like him a lot. All right, and now, like, where are you at in life now?
All right. So I ended up creating a new goal for myself, which is to design my life, like create a scheduled day that I can repeat over and over again until the day I die. So that's the work in progress now. And while I'm doing that, another goal popped up, which is to become someone who can respond calmly any stimuli with a smile, hidden or shown. And all of these are for one thing only. Started from one thing only. It's to become a decent human being that my son could look at and say, I want to be like that.
Have
That's
you
where I'm at right now.
discovered where are you currently at when it comes to your perspective on the purpose of life or the meaning of life?
That's interesting. And what I think about it right now is inspired by your recommendation. I've been listening to Alan Watts. All right. So the meaning, the most updated idea of that, or of the meaning of life, is that it doesn't have to have meaning, right? Because there's meaningful and meaningless, and now I'm thinking it's just the same. There would not be meaning if there's nothing that's meaningless, or there's nothing that's meaningful if there's nothing that's meaningless. If that's making sense. Essentially the yin and yang. So it doesn't have to be, and there's beauty in accepting that there's no meaning to it. That if we could just find a way to enjoy each moment, because the moment that we have is eternal. There's no time. There's just moment after moment after moment. So this moment goes on and on. And so
We only ever
that's
get to live in this moment, right? That's all there is.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so that's super aligned to designing the life that I could live over and over again.
It's very unusual for me to meet people who, dive deep in their own thinking and go deep into reflecting and unpacking questions like that. Doesn't get much more challenging than that. But I'm excited for you and the journey you're on because it is worth it. I think it's worth it to keep unpacking these questions. And I love the fact that you have chosen to get better at asking questions. I think that's something I have a couple of things I want to share with you around my perspective on where I've gotten to when it comes to, I don't know, these topics of the meaning of life. Maybe I'll share that in a minute, but I have a question about questions. Have you intentionally focused on the quality of the questions that you ask yourself? Or is that just something that's happened along your questioning? I'm
I,
making the assumption that your questions have been getting better.
I feel that they are, right? But I don't think I have intentionally dissected my questions and thought of making them better. I feel like it just naturally gets better the more I experience, or the more I learn, and the more influences I get affected by. And because if I feel like the question I'm asking myself is not better than the previous one, then I would just continue pondering upon the current question I have.
But doesn't that kind of lead you to better questions when you don't find what you're looking for there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what I hear in the way that you think. It's like that there's no way you could get as far as you've gotten on your own without constantly enhancing the quality of the questions. Because if typically we start out with something like, what is the meaning of life? That's not going to get us there. We have to start breaking it down, and then you enhance the quality of the questions. You get more specific, and you start building this mental map of the world, realizing that you want to understand the world better. You got to understand people better, and best place to learn is yourself. And yeah, so I think Tony Robbins talks about intentionally improving the quality of the questions that we ask ourselves, other people. And I think it's critical, but it appears to me that you've been doing that. So I would definitely encourage you to keep doing that. What is something that you are excited about in the next, I don't know, what is something you're excited about now? And then what's something you're excited about when you look forward to the next couple of years?
Now, I'm really excited about EmergePH.
I
I've
thought you were
shared
going to
this
say
with
about
you.
your being a dad, but
It's
I'm just
it,
kidding. Both, right?
I mean, it's the level of it. I don't feel like being a dad is all that exciting, but I feel like it's fulfilling.
I love that you're like prioritizing being a dad. That's something I don't think I did at your age when my kids were that young. I mean, I was there. It's not like I wasn't there, but I don't think I intentionally was consciously thinking my priority right now is to spend time with your son is one,
Two.
two.
Turn two.
Okay. No. So I just wanted to say I think it's really cool how you're intentionally carving out and prioritizing not even having a full-time job right now so that you can be a dad. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's something that I'm also proud of.
Okay.
um,
So that was the answer to what are you proud of right now? All right. Let's go back to the
oh,
excited.
okay.
Sorry, I asked the wrong question. No. Go ahead. What are you excited about? I want to hear it.
Yeah, so I merged PH because of the vision I share with you. Oh, and it's now that I'm thinking about it, it's connected. It's connected. And so the reason why I'm excited about Emerge PH is because it's super aligned with the vision I had for leaders in the Philippines, at least around my generation. I feel like I cannot lay too much for those who went first or before this generation. So so from this generation and the next, I feel like the leadership in the Philippines could really use some help. I'm not sure how much value I can contribute to that, but that's one thing that I'm working on. And it's the immediate answer that I see in front of me right now is what you're doing with Emerge PH, and it's really the personal growth, or at least starting becoming intentional in learning to learn, in understanding where do I want to go from here, right? And then being with people who are looking to do the same. Those are the core inspiring ideas I have because it's the reality that whether you realize it by learning from others or reality slaps you in the face, the same realization will come that we can not progress.
It's so amazing meeting people that are discovering the excitement of that journey of taking ownership of their own growth and realizing how much potential there is inside of each of us, that if we really make it intentional, we'll never run out of potential. We'll never max it out. And it's amazing meeting people like yourself. I feel like there are people all over the world, including this country. Like there's a lot of people in the Philippines right now that are scattered around, most of them kind of alone, without a lot of friends that are on that path. Creating a community, creating a space that will pull people in and connect them with others like yourself is really what I've been visualizing for a long time. And it's super exciting to see little evidences of it happening like you. So that makes me want to ask, can you remember when you first started getting this feeling like you were creating a version of yourself that you were happier with, or that getting that amazing feeling is like, wow, look at who I'm creating?
Yeah, that's the one that's related or relevant to me being a dad. A dark backstory is that I never really wanted to become a dad. So it's not planned, and I just figured it's already there. I need to do something about this. I just the one thing that I will never do is abandon this child because that just goes against whatever I believe in, or all not whatever, but all the things that I believe in. And so I needed to make the decision to do it and to do it the best way I can, right? And so the version of me when I made a decision is far from the best way I can, right? And so I had to make myself better. No other way anymore, right? Because without my son, just alone, right? I'm free to think whatever I want. I'm free to I'm free to become less than what I could be. But now I have a very compelling reason to become the best version of myself. And that also stems from that's also a reason why I had the realization that I cannot do this alone. It's because without the existence of my son, I would not have realized that. I would not have made that decision.
At least not yet. It does help to have, yeah, it seems to be deeply baked into us that having people that we care about, that we feel somewhat responsible for, is a huge driver. And without that social connection, without that impetus, we might not have the same kind of motivation. So it's beautiful. I yeah, kind of just as we maybe wrap up for today, I very much look forward to continuing to get to know you, and I'm really glad to really amazingly grateful that you're part of this community, and thank you so much for the help you've been giving us. And it's amazing thinking, going back to the ideas of the existential questions of life, right? First of all, highly recommend at some point if you haven't yet. And if you want to experience mushrooms, let me know, because I think they teach us a lot. Seriously. I mean, like, it upgraded my view of life in general, and just like the existential questions, the answers changed over and over again. So let me know if you're interested in that. You should talk to Miguel. I think you and Miguel are really going to get along. Have you come across Jason Silva and Shots of Awe?
Hmm,
So on
no.
YouTube, if you look for Shots of Awe by Jason Silva, I love the way he talks about awe, because like you were saying, we only ever live in this moment. And I am not, I would say for myself, I've not lived a life where I've prioritized joy, or just this feeling of life being full of awe. It's like looking around us and just being able to appreciate things so deeply. And but it's possible we can actually live in a state of appreciation, gratitude, and even awe. That I think that's in and of itself quite an achievement, if we can live in a state like that, especially appreciating ourselves. But we also, yeah, there doesn't seem to be, we don't have concrete answers about a meaning of life. And one thing that for me that's important to notice is that everything in the universe is constantly changing, right? There is nothing that's completely static, and nothing that stays exactly the same forever, other than maybe some laws of physics. But even at the level of quantum mechanics, we don't understand, we can't predict everything. Things are not exactly predictable. So trying to make meaning, like our human brains want to make meaning. So that's a given, is okay, our brains try to create meaning, and we like the feeling when there is meaning. But what if the meaning was just that we are part of the universe experimenting? What if we are just an expression of the universe experimenting with itself, and we are all part of the same universe expressing, like we're just a facet, or yeah, a piece of the universe experimenting? And if you think of us, because humans tend to be humanist, we think that humans are somehow, we care more about humans than everything else because we're human, right? What if the meaning, what if one of the core parts of our existence was simply to learn, not just for ourselves, but to learn for humans, and to create a better future? Or even what if it was just about answering the question of what is better, because there is no yet answer, right? There's always the question of what's better from here. And what if our existence was really just to continue asking that question and maybe a little tiny incremental improvement in answering it? To me, that's not a concrete answer. And I have this tattoo, which is it's the only tattoo I have, which is an open delta, which means always open to change and open to new ideas, which means I never want to think that I know something all the way, because I don't think we can be fully certain of anything. But yeah, I read a book called Long Path by Ari Wallach, which is about being the best ancestors we can for future generations. It's a short book, and I would also recommend it for you, because I think it really kind of shifted my perspective a bit when it comes to the meaning of our own life journeys. And anyway, those are the thoughts I wanted to share on that topic. But Keefe, I really appreciate you coming on this show and just sharing your story. And I'm looking forward to is there any part of your story that you think we've kind of skipped over, left out, that we should add in before we wrap up?
I'm not sure. I'm sure there's a lot that's been left out, but I'm okay with it.
Well, I know we'll probably create more content together in the future that will be
I
inspiring
love
for
that.
people. What's one, you said something earlier about how you believe that leadership or leaders in the Philippines could really use some help. As we wrap up, I'd love to just dig into that a little bit. What are some areas where you think leaders in the Philippines need the most help?
Purely based on experience, I have not done my research
Just
on
based on
this
your experience.
answer.
That's
Yeah.
this is not academic. This is just your opinion.
It's just the human skills, man. That's just it, being authentic for whatever we're pursuing. Because it's also that question is also an inspiration for why I created that LinkedIn note that way. Why I wanted to explore how I can give without expecting anything in return, is because that takes away the like a huge human factor in doing things, right? Because if we're just doing things for something in exchange, like everything is for a trade-off, then that doesn't feel too human. That feels a machine can do better, especially in this age of AI, right? If an AI can become very good at performing the things that we do for the sake of trading, getting or doing something to get something in return, then might as well give it up to them. But if we just learn human skills better, and so I feel like that's also aligned with becoming the best ancestors that we can. And so if we start leadership from ourselves, it's just leading our lives the way that we feel is valuable or meaningful. And so it expands from us to the immediate people around us into and then into a community. Then I think that's the essence of leadership, not being really, it's great that we get to become experts on things,
Getting
right?
something done.
All right, getting some
Yeah.
things done. But if there's if it doesn't revolve around the human factor or just the human
Yeah.
skills, then it would still end up like
Do
not
you
being
have it?
helpful.
Do you have any ideas from your perspective on why you think most leaders aren't so great in this area?
I feel like it's because of the rewards. Like when we go to work, we have managers, we have owners, and most people are, I'm not saying, I'm not gonna say all, but mostly are driven by status, by compensation, by the gains, and the connection that gets to be built surrounding those rewards just come secondary or lower in the priority list, right? And so if we can just put that higher, the rest would still remain, right? I'm not gonna say to get rid of everything else, just focus on connection. Well, there's beauty in doing that, but I'm not gonna say that we should drop everything else. Of course, there
Yeah.
are things that we want. Everyone is driven by something.
Yeah. The world of business leadership is evolving, well, always, but I think going through a major kind of revolution right now. Simon Sinek has done a lot of work on talking about how if we would genuinely prioritize taking care of people, the organizations would actually thrive much more. But it's a very difficult thing to change when it comes to mindset of, like you said, what the rewards are. And also the educational systems that people go through don't teach them that these are priorities, that don't teach you what everybody thinks it's about, KPIs and bottom line. But even if you
No,
want the bottom line to be better, you would actually have a better bottom line if you take better care of your best people. Anyway, cool.
I love that. And I just want to add that when you mentioned Simon Sinek, I really love the analogy he uses for the purpose of having a company. He says that the leader of that, or the one at the top, the driver of a vehicle, the vehicle is the company, and money is the gas, right? And so nobody rides a vehicle excited about getting fuel.
I bought a car so I can go to the gas station.
It's about the journey and the
The
where we're
destination, right?
going to the
Exactly.
destination. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I like
And who you're bringing to the
yeah,
destination. Yeah.
yes. Totally. I buy into that so much.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard an interview by him on, I used to listen to Impact Theory with Tom Bilyeu a lot, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And yeah, when I first heard his interview on that show, so really caught my attention. He told some amazing stories. Anyway, Keefe, I'm excited about your potential to who you're going to become in the future, but I'm just grateful to, like I said, grateful to know you. And really, in the conversations I've had with you so far, I've noticed that I perceive that you don't yet recognize how much you've grown just through the hard work of thinking that you've been doing, just the questions you've been asking yourself and the time you spent going deep on things and the commitment you've made to, yeah, to just do the thinking work and then do the doing work from there. Yeah, I just wanted to say to you that I think, first of all, I think I said this to you already. It's like life. I remember the moment when I realized that the way I was looking at personal growth was that I somehow had in my mind there was a place to reach. And then one day I just realized, no, there's no place to reach. It's just this continuum, right? Like this spiral upward that never stops. And yes, there's these ups and downs along the way. Hopefully the lows are higher and the highs are higher. But take it from me, if I have any authority on this topic whatsoever, you already have become someone that other people can learn from. And there's always an infinite amount of growth to come in the future. But I think you've got a lot to be proud of and a lot of value to already give to people. Thank you for being here. And thanks for the work you're already doing on yourself.
Thanks, man. That's really great feedback. Appreciate you.
All right. Until next time.
Next time.
Thank you so much for listening to this interview on Emerge Stories. We really hope that something here sparked your curiosity or maybe helped you think about something in your life just from a little bit of a different angle or perspective, maybe open up your mind to something you might be able to do in your life to take more ownership of your own learning and growth. That's the goal of this show. So please join our community, like and share, and tell other people about these stories if they're meaningful for you. And thanks so much for being here.